with your hosts, MrSniDBitS,
I don't have a problem with him, but I don't think he's that and a bag of chips.
BlackGirlMarvel,
I cried laughing. That was hilarious.
Tylermakesfilms,
That was like our favorite movie for some reason. I mean, it was really good. I enjoyed that movie.
Allthemoviethings,
I think the thing why I enjoyed it more too was the fact that we were going to talk about it from this perspective.
the pre-review with Blindbiggie,
Hey, this is Blindbiggie. Welcome to the pre-review.
and me, the real study movie voice guy.
I'm the real study movie voice guy.
Let's go to the poster wall.
Good evening and welcome to The Real Study. I am MrSniDBitS, and with me, as always, is All the Movie Things and Tylermakesfilms. BlackGirlMarvel is, of course, out still for the month for her play, but in her place is the movie voice guy, real study movie voice guy, cell phone wallet keys, aka Mickey. Anyway, we are here to talk sports. But before we do want to, of course, tell you to please follow us on all social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I think we also have a TikTok as well as a Discord. And if you want to come chat with us at Discord, you can request a movie. Come on over and request your movies. We take requests of all kinds, but we do, we reserve the right to say no if we want to. That said, we're going to get into an all Mickey choice evening. This was Cell Phone Wallet Keys' choice of 3 films, sports films. I think now next week we're going to have Tyler pick all 3 because we've had Brian, we've had Mickey. Now we're going to have Tyler, and we'll see what happens there. That said, Hoosiers is on the docket tonight, as well as Cool Runnings and Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler. So it's an extremely different kind of blend of sports movies. This is not your typical, it's not all football or something like that. But why don't we move over to the main screen and say, how you guys doing tonight?
Hey, good.
Pretty good.
Glad to be here.
Fantastic.
Good. Well, why don't we just get right into it? Mickey, you picked these movies, so I'm going to go to you first. Hoosiers. It's obviously a basketball classic, but what made you pick Hoosiers for this evening?
Well, we were just trying to get a good mix of stuff that wasn't necessarily football, and Hoosiers is one of those classic films that usually comes up a lot of times when people talk about like greatest sports films of all time. I think it's pretty good. Okay. But it is really good. Gene Hackman, legendary, iconic as always.
His birthday tomorrow.
Yes.
Oh,
How old?
92.
92?
Yeah.
Still going strong.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of an inspirational story. I always enjoyed it. I actually hadn't watched it in so long. That's kind of another reason why I was like, well, probably haven't watched it since like, I don't know, the early 90s.
Yeah.
So it's like I wanted to watch it again, kind of get a refresher on it. But yeah, it's a fun movie with some cool lessons to learn.
Yeah.
All right. Was this your multiple viewings? How many times have you seen it?
This is probably like 3rd time I think all ever seen it. Yeah.
All right. Tyler, let's just go around the horn here. Tyler, what did you think of Hoosiers?
it was so when you said we were gonna do sports movies, I was like, I don't watch a whole lot of sports movies because I'm terrible with like keeping up with sports. So I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be into this. And I started watching it. I was like, all right, I get the appeal. Like this is I'm having fun. Like I'm cheering on the teams. This is my second. I know of Gene Hackman, but this is only my second Gene Hackman movie.
Oh man.
The first.
What was the other one?
Gene Hackman week, man. Like,
Yeah, I look forward to that.
What's the other one?
Yeah, what's the other one?
The other one is the Royal Tenenbaums. But
Okay.
again,
wow.
my only experience with Gene Hackman is that Bill Murray had to come on set to kind of like wrangle him in, basically. So
Oh,
I
boy.
Wait,
I only know
Bill
that he's,
Murray
like-
had to wrangle
Bill Murray
someone?
had to wrangle him in?
That says
Right.
something.
Funny.
That's backwards.
That's
yeah, it is.
problematic.
Bill Murray would literally come on the days that he wasn't on set to basically hold him off from like getting onto like Wes Anderson. But that's another day. It's very 80s. There's parts where did he just punch a kid? I'm like, it's okay, it's the 80s.
Yeah.
Well, it was the 80s about the
It was
50s. Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
This is like Chinatown. It's a period piece in another era, so it's hard to tell whether that was intentional or period piece.
I don't know if it's because we watched Chinatown recently, but I was getting like, I don't know why, but Chinatown vibes a little bit, probably because of the time period. But I was just like, this kind of feels like there might be murder. I don't know. But...
It did feel, there was a darkness about it. I won't deny that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
It did have like the Lord of the Rings thing a little bit, where there would be like, it felt like there was multiple endings. Like every game felt like the final game. And
the one where the short guy makes I'm like, dude, they could have ended it right there. That would solid.
Right there, right.
But no, that's they had to go all the way, right?
Yeah.
How about you, Brian? Was this your first time, or?
This is my second time. Like Mickey mentioned, it's been a long time. Same thing with Cool Runnings. This is my second time. Yeah, it was very interesting watching it this time around. I was like, really, I don't know if it's just because we're like more aware of things nowadays, you know, and kind of like I was kind of looking at it from that lens now and just picking things apart. And like, yeah, they're definitely, I feel like I definitely liked it less. Like it's still a good film. Like it's for what it was. But yeah, I was definitely looking at things differently this time around. I was like, oh, and felt like some things weren't working as much as I thought before. Of course, I was like a kid when I watched it before, you know, so but yeah, Gene Hackman's great. I mean, I love when, you know, he first comes in and just like takes over from that practice right away. It's like, no, you're done coaching. It's my, you know, things are gonna go my way. So and it's crazy too, because like all these things that we know as like sports movie tropes, I feel like a lot of them stem from this movie. Like there's so many. Fun thing too is like 2 out of the 3 movies have like a slow clap, and then like, there's a slow clap in Cool Runnings and this movie. I was like, oh damn. Yeah, so I was, and none in the rest there though, but but
no,
yeah,
but there was
so
that great
really
chanting, so it had that same rhythmic chanting.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, there was that. Yeah.
So this was my first time watching Hoosiers. I had heard of it obviously forever, and but see, I don't have this great relationship with basketball. It's kind of my whole family loves basketball, and I'm like,
funny.
Why? Kind of like my family, even like it goes deeper than that. Like my grandma is from KU, and her husband was the voice of KU, and they met James Naismith, and they have like a signed picture of James Naismith, and
stuff.
Yeah, so and if you don't know, that's the inventor of basketball.
I mean, yeah.
So like there, and KU was the first school to ever pick up basketball. So like there's a whole ridiculous lineage there. So I just but I've always been kind of
like the black sheep in that way.
I really am. And then you know,
not like basketball.
It's weird. I don't. My mom doesn't, I guess, and neither did my dad. My dad was a football guy. So for me, football and baseball were the ones I did when I was in school. Some track. I ran a lot. That came in handy later. Anyway, so this was, I don't know, it's hit and miss for me, because you're right. It's like the old tropes are kind of bound up in this movie, almost like this was the like pinnacle. If you think of sports movies before this, you don't really think of any. Like none just really come to mind. Like nowadays, you can start listing them, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have several here.
Yeah.
And even more just basic ones, or even just comedy ones. I don't know how many baseball movies like Major League are there.
Man.
You know?
Yeah.
Although that would be interesting to revisit these days, because there's going to be moments. But Gene Hackman, spot on. The guy nails every role he ever does. He really brought it in this movie. And I did like this kind of outsider, insider, small town thing. That's a great trope, because it's still true today. And you would still run into that in some towns. And I think that it shows that...
Man, they were annoying.
They were. It shows that Indiana is the Texas of basketball, right? Like, so Indiana is the to basketball, Texas is the football. And Hoosiers, you know, that's why they're called Hoosiers, because they're all diehards for their basketball. I mean, you saw them driving. I liked that part where they were driving town to town. Like the whole town would drive to the next town. And they had rumbles and shit, like that second game where they had to like, all that kind of shocked me a little bit. But at the end of it, I was like, all right, they won.
That's Indiana basketball, man. Swinging.
But it was, I don't know. I didn't expect some parts, but the rest was very, very expected, I guess. Yeah, that's the problem with watching these too late. You watch him that far down the road, and you're like, cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I could see why people liked it, but I don't know, it didn't dazzle me.
Right.
And I didn't know Barbara Hershey was in it, and I didn't know
Yeah.
Dennis Hopper was in it. That was a pleasant surprise.
I forgot Dennis Hopper was in it. I was like, oh, there's Dennis Hopper.
And considering kind of his career start, I think that he really did show with things like this role that he can totally bring it. I think he did a great job. He was the character I was most enthralled with. I'm kind of following along and going, "Come on, shooter, dude! I want you to do it." No, he relapsed. You son of a bitch! You know, like. But you knew he was gonna. You know, like.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was nothing overly surprising, I guess, except the underhand throw for the free throw. That was surprising.
Granny shots. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not expect that. But yeah, I don't know. Who directed this film? Do we know much about how this film got made? Did anybody see any behind the scenes stuff on this one?
Not a lot. I know it's the same director as Rudy, which you can kind of tell from most of it. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I feel bad. But
David and Spa.
there you go.
And Spa.
Rudy, Hill Street Blues. Running out of things.
Yeah, he didn't do a lot.
Yeah.
He did other things, but just
that's
stuff nobody
two of the
heard of.
most-
So.
That's two of the most
like,
iconic sports movies of all time.
exactly.
Especially in
At
the
least in
80s, right?
terms of-
Those are both
Yeah.
80s
Yeah.
iconic sports movies.
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't get like Coach Carter, Glory Road. Remember the Titans even has the guy in the hospital rooting them on in the you know, on the radio. I was like, whoa, that's kind of, they pulled that right out of this movie. I don't know. You could definitely tell it was the 50s because they locked him up for being a drunk.
Yeah.
For falling asleep on his own property.
Yeah.
Did he hurt anyone?
No.
These days they would probably just leave you alone, right? They wouldn't like lock you in a mental institution, which is what they seem to do.
Also,
Felt
they
like
really loved giving technical fouls back then. I'm like, man, there's so many techs. What's going on? Just throwing him out left and right. Like, you got one technical foul, you're gonna throw him out for after one technical foul. Come on.
It also seemed like he was on the court a lot of times when they didn't call him for technical fouls. So like I was like, where's the line? I don't see it on the ground.
Yeah.
I didn't like the one where the dad walked out and he's like, he just walked out. That wasn't my fault. He just
But then he admitted he was the assistant coach. He shouldn't have said that. He should have just let him be a drunk.
Yes.
That's right.
Right? Had he not said that, they would have just thought it was a person.
Yeah.
Don't tell him that. That's I did like when he when Hackman's character was like, "Nah, shooter, you got this," and like just ditched him at the game and made him do it. That was a very good moment. I just wish there was more to talk about. I guess the technicality of the filmmaking did change as they got into those final games. There was a kind of a different approach to the shots. They were more deliberate. They were slower, it seemed. At least from what I was picking up on, I was like, wow, they're really, trying to drive it home that they're great. But they have to do it slow-mo because they're not so great.
There's not so much.
There's montages in there.
Yeah.
Course,
Classic.
I guess Rocky was like the big sports movie before this one.
That's a good point.
But yeah, like Rocky was so much about like Rocky himself, not so much. Not as boxing. I mean, it's about boxing, but it's not like that's not like the whole thing. Where this one had a lot more basketball than I remember in it, so it was kind of surprising. One movie I thought about too, like you're like Sniddy, you were talking about Dennis Hopper's character kind of being more interesting. There's a movie with Ben Affleck called The Way Back that came out pretty recently, actually, like a couple years ago, and he is like a recovering alcoholic and coaching this like, I think it's high school. I don't remember, but yeah, it like, man, it really got me. Like it's really well done. I was surprised by it. I didn't think I was gonna like it, but yeah, I was crying by the end of that one. But that's one you should probably watch if you haven't seen it. But that's pretty good.
It'll get on my list. Definitely.
Yeah.
I dig Affleck. I think he's pretty good in most things. I'm not one of those haters. I think he's a better director, even though.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
But
yeah. I also thought like one of the things that I was picking out too was like his relationship with Barbara Hershey.
Yeah.
I was about to say, yeah. It's so weird. Like, I didn't,
Yeah, I was like, oh, that like, I didn't feel any chemistry between them. And then like when he finally kisses her, I was like, that was not earned. He just like grabs her.
Yeah.
Well,
This is happening.
not only was there no chemistry, but I'm never like, let's watch Gene Hackman make out. I'm just never.
Right.
No
I mean,
offense, Gene. Like, that's never
What was
what's
that
on my
movie?
mind. You know.
No.
what was that movie we recently watched? It was like Black something. He gave me the vibe of like they're trying to make him like the lead, like the manly lead, but like it didn't really like.
Oh,
work
Black
out.
Rain. Yeah,
Oh,
it was
Black
very
Rain.
much.
Black Rain.
yeah.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
I was like, ugh.
Yeah, there's like certain roles, like, yeah, like, but yeah, I've never seen him as this like, you know, suave kind of ladies man
No.
in any other movie. So like he's a hard ass in a lot of movies, but I mean like French Connection, Tyler.
Hmm.
That's one
Watch-
you gotta watch.
watch it.
Yeah. French Connection, excellent film.
And he kind of, and the replacements, but I kind of feel
Yeah, the
like he's kind of the same character almost in
Right.
Hoosiers that he is in the
I
replacements.
like him
as a
better
football
Yeah.
in Replacements
But-
though, because he's a little
Yes,
looser,
right.
right?
Yeah, he's a little
yeah.
bit better in that than he is in this, I think.
Yeah.
He
But
gets
kind
a
of the
he gets a
same
joke a little.
vibe.
In this one, there's no jokes from him really.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Yeah,
jokes,
yeah.
but like 50s jokes. Which
Yeah.
I mean, is this even based on a real story?
It is
Uh,
based on a true story.
Is
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Because I was hoping for
Yeah.
the real picture at the end on the wall.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Not
And like the little
not the
like
fake actor picture.
yeah,
You know, like
the little like recap of their
yeah, if they
Their
only won the
success.
one time because he was there, I would have loved to see what the real guy looked like. That's just me. You
Yeah.
know, I
Give us
enjoy that.
The text on screen with
yeah.
the
Like
following
cool
season
lines.
they repeated. it.
Yeah.
There's a-
Mhm.
what was the guy's name? The basketball player, the best player, Jimmy. I can't remember his last name.
James. I don't remember
Yeah,
his last name either, but
James.
You
Barbara
know,
Hershey's
Jimmy went on
Lord or
to
whatever.
star in the NBA. Blah blah blah.
Right, right. No,
Or
that would have
he
been
like
good.
end up being a car salesman. One of those
Yeah.
two, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But he never left the town. You know. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's terrible.
Right.
Because that was
Mhm.
what she was. They were really a dick to him the moment he showed up, weren't they? They like really
Like
was
right away.
noticeably everybody
Yeah.
was it
That
was
that
just
hardcore like conservative town trope where they're like
Yeah.
anything not like us is bad, and
Yeah.
like that meeting in the barbershop was so awkward.
Oh my god, yeah.
And I
was like, come
I
on.
forgot. Like now that
Yeah.
I'm older, I'm like, dude, I've been in those situations, kind of like, or I'm like, I don't want to
Oh
be
my
here. But
gosh.
Gene Hackman's like handling it like a champ, like,
Oh yeah.
y'all have a good night. I'm gonna do whatever I want.
He's like, thanks.
And did you guys
But-
notice there were some citizens that seemed to have more clout than the sheriff? Like
Yeah.
they
Oh,
had more
yeah.
pull in all of this. And the
Like
and
that
they were
one
telling him
kid's
to get
dad.
away.
The dad, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's like,
Oh,
Sheriff, go
yeah.
home. Like, what?
Yeah, sure.
I'm here to make sure you guys don't kill this man. Because I'm also
Yeah.
pissed, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
yeah.
I mean,
No,
it made
that's-
sense that
yeah.
he was like 6 feet tall, right? Like he was
Oh, yeah,
like
he
way
was
taller
huge.
than
I
everybody.
like
yeah,
that
yeah.
guy. That guy was a great character. And
I
then
wish we'd got
he
more
was the
depth out of
assistant
him.
assistant, right? The whole
Yeah, yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I would have liked to know more about him because they kind of
Right.
he was just a figure that was there, I guess, to be like between coach and the townspeople.
Mhm.
Was all it really was, like a shield or a middleman.
buffer, like, yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Oh, that's interesting. So Hannah or Aina just told us Hopper wanted a 10-second notice before the director called action. He would spin around for 10 seconds, allowing him to
Oh.
stagger onto court, appearing drunk. It's pretty clever.
Funny.
I like that. But that's subtle. Like I
Spin
love those
around.
little, you know, those little things. I mean, you got to do what you got to do to put yourself in the mindset. And if
Yeah.
being dizzy
Yeah.
without being drunk is the
Uh-huh.
way, I give him props. I always grew up with Hopper from Waterworld and
Yeah.
things like
Speed.
that. You know, speed. So
Yeah.
my perception of him was always kind of a little skewed as this like over the top character. When there's
Yeah.
plenty of roles with him where he's not the guy from Texas Chainsaw, like he's
Right.
he's this guy. He's just a human
Yeah.
being doing things. No, I love according to IMDb. That's where I think a lot of us get our facts about movies.
Oh yeah.
I don't know many
Mhm.
people that don't use IMDb,
I am the
something like that.
Amazon.
Amazon is another one. I love their feature of when
Well,
you're
no, 'cause
playing a movie.
Amazon owns IMDb.
Oh,
That's why I said
No.
that. Yeah. So.
I didn't know that.
yeah.
Amazon's like suckers. I got you.
I got it.
Uh,
I didn't. I don't know. I wanted to want to like this more.
Right.
I really think I should have just watched it when I was younger and stopped being, you know, a dill hole. And I probably would have loved it. But now I look back and I'm like, yeah,
It definitely doesn't have the same effect as it did like when I watched it when I was younger. Like Brian was saying, this second time around or third time around for me, but I haven't watched it in like, 20 years almost. So at this I am now, and now things that I've learned and know, it's just kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I was having fun like calling the tropes though, like the part where they're in the court.
Totally. Yeah, there's
the kid comes out, he's like, I'll play for the team again. I'm like, I bet he's gonna be like, but you have to bring him back. And he's like, but you guys, you have to bring him back. All day.
There was one thing I didn't get to see that I expected. I thought the guy that originally was kind of pseudo coaching the team would have eventually come back and been like, oh man, you were right. Or something.
Yeah, I pegged you wrong. Like,
right.
Yeah,
you know, hey, maybe I'll work with you next year. No, he just, but he smiled. We got to see him in the crowd and stuff. But
well, that's something else. That's something I wanted to address. Like, none of those guys really like got their comeuppance. Like, they got what they wanted. They won a state championship, and I'm willing to bet none of them really changed. Like,
yeah,
honestly.
exactly. Yeah,
like by the end of that film, they were still the same people they were. But hey, my kids got a state championship. Woohoo!
Yeah. Totally.
Right. Not even, we were wrong about you, coach.
I didn't even see them learn a lesson. Like,
no.
The only people that learned lessons
like,
were
the kids on the team.
The kids and Hackman learned his lesson.
Yeah.
So,
that kid didn't pray as much the last time.
Oh yeah. That was tripping me out. Something cool about that though, like I had noticed every time they were praying, like Hackman was just kind of like just chilling or doing whatever he was doing, just kind of throw that in there. Like, I'm not in this. Like, I'm somebody out here. You guys are here.
Because was he ever explicit about like his like religious beliefs in the movie? I don't think so, right?
No, that said it all. I was like,
oh yeah.
No, they probably viewed him as an atheist, or maybe even like if they were Baptist, he was Protestant or something. Like they just viewed him as an outsider in every way possible. Because that's definitely a thing in those smaller towns. If you're a different denomination, you're terrible. Get out of here. You know, pretty wild. I got into the praying. Oh, that's not a word. I got into the praying thing with the kid. I really, I don't know. It was weird. It was almost like he just tapped in for superpowers, and I thought that was pretty great. You know? I did enjoy that. And
he's like, I'm asking my boy Jesus.
Right?
Yeah.
But I like how Hackman, like, you know, he did. He was like, I'm just asking God to do it.
He was like going crazy. He was like, I don't know. I feel the Holy Spirit, man. Like kind of something like
It worked. Whatever he needed. Even if it was placebo or not. Either way, it was still worked for him.
Totally.
Which is 80%. No. 80% mental, 40% physical.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
So are you guys sports guys? I mean, are you, into the sports?
I like sports. I love basketball. I mean, I grew up with basketball, Portland Trailblazers, my whole life pretty much. And I love going to sports, going to see sports live. I was like pretty hardcore Seahawks fan for a while. So I do love football also. And I never, I'm like you, Sniddy. Like I ran cross country and track and field and did some throwing stuff and some jumping.
Some jumping stuff. I like that.
Like I did high jump and javelin because there's like multiple throwing.
We never got to have javelin, but I did do shot put.
And
I did all the sprints and the like short fast runs. That's what the big leg guys do, was the faster stuff rather than that long distance.
I always did 5K.
Yeah, no, the skinny guys were always doing the long runs. I would be winded by the end of a mile and be like, go ahead, man, I can't do this anymore. So. But you want to run to the end of that building, let's do that.
Give it your all.
Anyway.
Yeah.
What about you guys? What about Tyler? You ever been into sports? Has it been movies your whole life? What are we talking?
Movies my whole life. But I played. That's the thing. I never really like watched them. I would play them though. So I did like soccer, baseball. I also did track in high school. I tried to do basketball because all the kids were doing it. And I was like, I want to be cool too. But I was so short and I can't dribble for shit. I can't shoot. Nope. Soccer though, I can do soccer all day.
Nice.
I love soccer movies. Those are good.
Oh, that's awesome.
How many soccer movies are there?
Shaolin Soccer.
Bend it like Beckham.
Bend it like Beckham.
The Big Green. The Big Green.
The Big Green. Ladybugs.
Ladybug.
Oh, Ladybugs. Any of the Air Bud? Well, not Air Bud. It'd be like one of the Bud movies.
Yeah.
Buds, Air.
Airbud.
Kicking and Screaming. That's a good
Airbud
one.
covers
Is
all
that
of
that
all
is
the
no, that
sports.
is Kicking and Screaming. That is
Yeah.
good point.
They even have Airbud, Airbud curling one. There's an Airbud one with curling.
Really?
No, there's not. That's coming up.
2023.
Yep.
Air Bud movie.
I played football mostly growing up. Always wanted to play basketball, and I did. I rode the pine most of the time. Every now and then I get put in because I was kind of like the goon, like, hey man, go foul that guy. Like,
Nice.
not to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Foul.
Just be a wall. Like, yeah.
But I was always in love with basketball because I think a lot of the people I hung out with played, and I would play with them. I wasn't terrible, but I wasn't good enough to be like a starter on the team or anything. But football was like my main thing. I did that, ever since the flag football, like when I was really little. So
nice. Yeah, I did Little League from 5th grade until high school, and then I was like, no more baseball. My dad made me wrestle, and this is like classic 80s. Like, he pulled me by my shirt and like dragged me to the wrestling room and took me to the coach and said, my son's going to wrestle. And of course, in the 80s, like, they went, okay, no problem, sir. Here's your gear, suit up. Turned out I was pretty decent at it. I actually managed.
The parents are like, "Hey, that dad's pulling that kid.
No,
it's
there,
okay.
there was no other. This was during practice, so it was literally just the other kids and the coach and my dad. So he did that in front of all the other kids in the class on the team. But what was great is I was bigger than everybody, so I got to be in a higher weight class, and I was actually pretty good at it. I got some first things. But then I quit as soon as my dad wasn't, pushing his thumb. Anyway. Sorry, it's my dad's birthday, so I'm thinking about him a lot. So nice to talk about him in a positive way, I guess, because he taught me life lessons. But I also did soccer. Soccer's good. Track, I already mentioned, and then I quit sports before high school because in high school there were way cooler things to do than sports. But no, overall, because of all the sports I did when I was young and my dad. Now, at least I know them well enough so that when I do watch a movie like this, I can keep up. I'm not, like, what does that mean? What do you mean it's 7 points for a touchdown and an extra point? What do you mean? I understand it. So it doesn't bother me. But I'm never like in love with it. I'm never like running towards the sports movies. But then Mickey makes us watch sports movies, and now all I can think about is sports. So it's like weird. Now I want to watch football clips. I don't know. It's really weird.
The thing about sports and the sports movies is like with sports, there's so many built-in storylines there. I mean, that's why so many people are attracted to watching sports, because there's already this built-in drama in it. You know what I mean? And it's like, and like, I know there's some people that kind of like shit on sports and everything like that, which is fine. It's not your thing, but still, you have to like. Because I've been on kind of both sides of it, where it's like, but you kind of have to, I mean, you can't help but respect, like, just these people putting their all into something, and just, I mean, just killing themselves out there, for whatever reason. Was because they love the game, or because there's something else riding on the line for them, or
chasing
just
glory.
Anything. And it's like, I just think I think that's one of the big attractions I think people have, because it just has built-in drama and storylines for us to see.
It's a form of superheroes, right? Without having like comic books, these are our real life. I think of it more as like Gladiator, right? But they're the people you can look to go, wow, there's inspiration, or there's something I wish I could do and be that great. And they do make you feel good in those moments. So while it's not real heroes, it still can feel that way. It can have that same sensation. So I get that. Even when you're not into sports and you're in a room full of people who are into sports, it can be hard not to be caught up in it.
Yeah. So. And then also on the flip side too, there are like sports fans who like don't understand like us, like movie nerds, and like it's the same thing though. And my son, like, we know all these stats about movies, and they know all these stats about sports. Like, it's the same thing. Like, we don't.
No, they're sports nerds, dude, and they've been that way for a long time.
Yeah, and
Sports
it's
nerd
kind of
might have been
im-
one of the first nerds, honestly.
Yeah, no, totally. It's kind of impressive because like when I was married, like my brother-in-law, man, I learned so much from him. Just like he was so good. I really, to this day, I wish he would have done something with his insane knowledge about football he had. But he was like, for some reason, he was a Jaguars fan, and back then when they weren't good, now they're doing pretty good. But he could call plays and he could tell what play they're going to set up for before they set up and everything. And like it's like he saw the future with each play. It was insane. And he was, yeah, I wish he would have done something with it. But like to have like that level of knowledge with a game that you don't even play, that you're just like a fan of, like it's crazy.
Well, that's like this movie. Like I had some respect. Like I was watching and I'm like, man, I can't. It's like how when I watch chefs cook, right? I'm like, I can't handle that. That's
Yeah,
it's like, like, with sports, it's like I can't come up with plays or like know how that's gonna happen.
Yeah, same here. Yeah,
So props to them. Like,
no, totally. Yeah, I love it.
So, we kind of veered off into our own sports, but hey, whatever.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about whatever we need to get through movies that are hard to talk about. And what I found is movies that are flatlined or movies that are even just comedies. We've talked about this before. Comedies are hard to review because you're like, that was a funny joke.
Right.
And then we move on because there's like, what are you going to break down? We're not going to break down the joke. We are not like a panel of seasoned comedians ready to, if Lala was here, we might get her to help us, but there it is. So it's really got to be the film side of it. That's right. Biggie changed his name to Retro Tape Noir on most things. If you guys didn't notice. And he's now going by strictly Biggie. So it's all Biggie at this point. Just put that out there for the world. And thank you, Biggie, for all your amazing work and support behind the scenes and doing the pre-review since we're on that. Why don't we rate this movie and we can move on to Cool Runnings, which I think we might have more to say about because I actually hadn't seen it since like 95 or something like that. So it was interesting to go back and watch this one. But let's go in the same order. Mickey, what did you think of Hoosiers this time around?
Hoosiers now, I'd probably give it a generous 7. How about that?
7? A generous 7.
Yeah, I'm giving it a little love because as a kid, I probably, when I first watched it, I probably would have given it like a 9, loving it. And I still have that love of the team, and that whole trope is like one of my favorite tropes. A group of people that should not get together and do something great. So yeah, I'm still gonna. It's a lot of nostalgia, but Gene Hackman, Dennis Hopper, 7
for sure.
7. Tyler.
I'm gonna give it a 7.5 because like I enjoyed it more than I thought I was gonna. I love just like the 80s tropes of like everything felt like someone turned over their shoulder and they're like,
yeah.
Every time I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I get it.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
Where's the Mentos commercial?
Yeah. Also, it's your second Gene Hackman movie, so you got
that's my second Gene Hackman movie.
Check that out.
You got to start checking those off the list.
The journey begins.
The journey begins. Yeah, we're gonna give you like all kinds of Gene Hackman movies now. You haven't seen Superman?
He hasn't.
The original Christopher
Oh, you weren't
Superman?
here for that. Yeah, I got grilled a little bit for like I didn't watch it. I've seen scenes from it, but I haven't.
And Hackman's in more than one of them. That's what's nice about that.
Yeah.
That means you also haven't seen Crimson Tide, which is like expert level battling between two great actors.
All movies I've heard of and I've never watched.
Yeah.
That one's got to go on the list. I'm putting Crimson Tide on the list.
I love that movie.
So there's two Gene Hackmans we got to watch.
We could do a submarine week.
Oh yeah,
Hunt for Red October.
Hunt for Red October. Yeah. Crimson Tide, and then what? Like the Widowmaker.
U571.
I was thinking the
Hunt for Red
Widowmaker.
October is like been sitting on my list forever.
You've never seen Hunt for Red October?
I have a podcast talking about it. I'm like, I don't get the references.
Wow. No, that's a solid. Like that's I mean,
awesome.
now we're doing a Sean Connery night.
Great movie.
Yeah, no.
Subweek.
Subweek would be great.
Yeah.
Everyone could bring sandwiches.
Yeah.
we could make it a full Subweek. reach out to Subway and see if they'll sponsor us for a week.
Mm-hmm.
Subway.
Subweek presented by Subway.
We even have your
the same kind
voiceover
of
guy
subs,
already,
but-
Sub. Right? Subway, we got your guy. So Brian, what did you think of Hoosiers?
I'm with Mickey too. It's like a generous 7. Also, yeah, I think we're like right in the exact same mindset because like we saw it the first time around the same time, and then like it's been that long since I've seen it, and yeah, looking at it through a different lens for sure. And which is crazy too, because like yeah, back then stuff was all the stuff that we know as tropes now were so new.
Yeah.
And we've seen so many movies now, like especially sports movies that just like check these boxes off, you know. I mean, literally, like Tyler was saying, like short of having people wink at the camera and
They might as
thumbs
well.
up.
7 Up. You know,
Yeah.
some
Generous
80s
7. Yeah.
A
Plus it's
generous 7.
classic, you know.
And I think another way of saying generous 7 is soft 7.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to give it
Yeah.
a hard 6. I
Hard
can't.
Oh.
Hard.
I can't go above 6 because I should have watched this when I was younger. It would have had the nostalgia. But watching this time, like Brian said at the beginning of the segment, I just kind of was like, oh yeah, white town in middle America.
That's the thing that crossed my mind too. It's like, man, look at all these white people.
Yeah.
And then when they get to the end, Tyler, I think we mentioned this before the show, but they get to the end
yeah.
and they're playing against black characters or black characters, black
I was like,
players.
that's so weird.
And black coaches too, like
Yeah,
black coaches.
right.
And there's like
Chicago, South.
So they were,
Bend.
so they were
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Indianapolis or somewhere, you know, in the southern
Mhm.
Chicago area or something, you know, where it was a big city, you know.
Yeah.
And yet they used the fundamentals and won, which is great.
Yeah. The 50s.
The 50.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So yeah, 6. You know, I don't think I'll ever watch this again, and that's why it's getting a 6.
Mhm.
I still think it's worth a watch. If you've never seen
Right.
it and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
like sports movies, please put Hoosiers on your list if you haven't. I think I was like me
Yeah.
and Tyler might have been the last 2 people to ever not see this movie.
Probably.
Possibly.
Nah, there's more, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's more.
But those people won't watch sports movies, so
Yeah.
you know, we were the
Probably.
holdouts, I guess. You know,
Yeah.
or because of the show, because that's always a good rule.
Yeah.
So we are going to. Oh, and I forgot my little thing.
Oh, I did
Aw.
think of a really terrible dad joke while watching this movie.
Okay.
So, but not really the joke, just the punchline. So you feel free to, I'm going to give this to you guys. Do with it what you will. Basically, the punchline is, "Who's your daddy?"
Damn it! I was about to. I was trying to come up with.
I know, me too. I was like, "Who's your daddy?" Like, this has got to be you somehow. Like,
I was gonna stop you. I was like, actually, before you do that, can I ask you who's your daddy?
I don't even know what
Damn
the
it.
joke would be. Just
yeah, like somehow we could.
the punchline's good
in
enough.
there.
Just say it. You know, we don't need the joke. I don't know. Maybe.
Mhm.
So we're gonna
Like,
move
what's
on.
what's a Hoosier? I don't know,
Right.
but who's your daddy?
Nice.
Something like that. Yeah.
Maybe
That
that's
movie would
something people would have
automatically
said.
get a 10, bro.
Are we talking about the parody
Yeah.
version here? Like, who's your
Yeah.
daddy?
That's the sequel.
Mm,
Who's your daddy?
filmed over an afternoon. Anyway.
Mhm.
Moving on. So we are now going to move on to Cool Runnings. This is a 1993 Disney film starring John Candy,
Yeah.
and I would say also starring Dougie Doug. The other act, well, Leon is known for a few other things as well. So those are the big actors in this film. And it is about the, you know, if you don't know, I don't know how you wouldn't know, about the first Jamaican bobsled team. And this is a true story, sort of. It's based on a true
Sort of.
story is a better way to put it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so why don't we start with Tyler, since you're next kind of in that, the way I've been going. And what did you think of Cool Runnings? How many times have you seen it, etc.?
All right. Well, this will be the first time publicly I will announce that this is the first time I've ever seen this movie in its full entirety. I've never watched a movie all the way through. I've always seen it on like Disney Channel. I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it, and
Yeah.
But it was fun. The whole time I was watching it, though, I was like, 1993. I was like, how did this movie get made? Like,
Right.
it's like kind of insane how like even like I was talking to my girlfriend. I was like, the characters are mostly adults, so that like, and it's on Disney Channel, so I was like, that's one strike against it. Probably it'll probably have a hard time You got black characters, and I wasn't
Right.
sure like what it was like back. I mean, I was 94, so I'm not really sure how it was back then, but I'm pretty sure it's not that much different from now.
No, totally. Yeah.
I had a lot of fun. I think I'm probably gonna give this a higher rating once we get to that, because like
Mhm.
anything that like I'm kind of like, it's cheesy. I'm like, but it's fun. Like,
Yeah.
I'm having a good time. Yeah, that's it. It was cool, and I was running with it. So
Yeah.
I was waiting for that. All the movie things. I assume you saw this back in the day, and then this was your rewatch. What did you think?
Yeah, this is probably like my second time, so it's been a while, but man, this one still hits for me. Like, yeah, it's just like a real feel good movie, it's like, it is kind of tropey. Like it's definitely the underdog story, for sure. It's like this fish out of water story, all those kind of things. And there's some redemptive stuff, and there's a redemptive arc for John Candy's character for sure.
And the dad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, a little bit of that. And yeah, and also like another kind of like what we just talked about was like another team that doesn't really mesh really well at first, and coming together and really yeah. And the thing was too, like they didn't win, you know what I mean? So it's like really great, but they like, man, like talk about like Tyler was talking about how they shot this. I was thinking about like from a technical perspective too. I'm like, they're shooting this thing on film. This is 93. It's film. So the cameras aren't small. And I'm thinking like, how are they shooting some of this bobsled stuff? And especially the crash, when they crash at the end. Oh my God. Like, I don't remember it being so traumatizing, but I was like, oh God, like
that guy's head was like, sideways, being dragged on the ice.
Oh,
I noticed that every
how
time.
How your neck's not broken?
Right.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. But I was thinking about technically how are they shooting some of the stuff, but and I almost wonder if like was some of that archival stuff.
It was.
Okay. That's what I thought. Okay. So
so they spruced it up and color corrected it to what they were doing.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's probably a little easier because it was film. But yeah, I still had a good time with this. It was really fun to see it again. Yeah, I liked it.
All right. How about you, cell phone wallet keys? I know you did a TikTok on Cool Runnings.
I lost count how many times I've seen this movie. This was this is one of those that I got on VHS when I was like 11, 12 years old, probably, and would watch it like every day because I really liked it. I would have movies like that. And then anytime I see it on television or something, I'll stop and finish it from wherever it's at. It's a really heartwarming, feel good story.
Yeah.
It, at the age I watched it, it taught me a lot about, what it is to win and work hard and be a part of a team. And it just meant a lot to me. And I adore John Candy. So anything he does is also probably going to be one of my favorite movies. Just the stories, each character was just had a good little arc. It may not have been like super in depth for all of them, but I guess other than Sanka, he was just there for comedic. But
right.
Everyone else just had this great little this arc. Then and it all flowed together. It didn't feel like too much, where usually movies would be like that. Like it balanced, and we got some tropes of like the evil Europeans, right? Like in leather jackets.
Yeah.
But it works. It is what it is. Yeah, I adore this movie, and it means a lot to me. So I was very happy to add it to this list.
I like what Biggie just said.
Good to see it again.
Taught me how to be a badass mother who don't take no crap from nobody, right?
Exactly.
Which I like that. This was my second viewing, or maybe it might have been like my fifth, but I saw it several times at the same time when I was young. So like it was several viewings in a row. But this was my first time in decades, and this movie got me at the end. I dropped one,
I was surprised.
For the end. I was like, oh, Jamaica. But I do love the lightness of this film. How anytime they do get serious, it's only just to kind of cover a lesson or to further the plot. It never got so serious. It was a nice blend of the two. The evil Germans, totally story that's not in real life. Apparently, they were very welcoming. I looked up the Jamaican. I thought there would be a whole story behind all this, but there isn't. Like, there really isn't.
There's not a lot. No.
They did this, yes. They went back, yes. They still go back now, yes. They've never won. Spoiler.
That's crazy.
They got 14th once.
They have such a cool looking bobsled too.
They really do.
man.
I like the
Yeah.
colors. It's great.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the reason this movie got made is because Disney did a lot more live action back then. I think
Good live action.
good live action
Yeah.
as well, and they've always their live action has always been a little different than other live action. You know,
Yeah.
when they do it under the Walt Disney banner, I should say, because when they do Touchstone, you're
Right,
like, oh,
yeah,
that's another drama.
Touchstone
you know.
Buena Vista. Yeah.
Right. You can't really tell the difference between those and Warner Brothers movies and etc. But the Walt Disney adult films are usually pretty cool, but they're really, like, you notice that they said mother, right? But they don't. Oh, they said badass. Ass is the only bad word in the whole movie,
Yeah. It really is like, not a lot of language in it.
right? And then
Yeah.
it's crazy because they've got, they're mentioning Rastas, they're mentioning Jamaicans, they're talking about Sanka and how he like smokes stuff, but they never they never really go all the way in. But I'm just like, I mean, if that was the character in real life, I'm pretty sure he was blazing before going down that tunnel.
He'd be blazing when he was in his little derby.
But again, it's the
Yeah.
Olympics. Well, this is 88, so I guess they weren't piss testing people back in 88 necessarily.
not.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you could get high and go down on a sled, I guess.
Yeah, and he wasn't steering, so hey, why not?
Yeah.
He was braking though. He wasn't even just the guy in the middle. He was the guy that had to brake at the
He's
end.
like, we're good.
He's like, guys, I'm ready to go. It's like the race is finished already. Oh,
Right.
all right away. Yeah.
break right now. Right, it's too late. Dougie Doug is a guy that I recognize because of this movie, but I swear he was meant to be more famous than he got.
Yeah, I think he had some popularity around the time, which is like
Right.
part of the reason he got the role, I think. And yeah, and then like after this movie came out, like you didn't really hear much about him after that.
No,
He
apparently
doesn't
he has
look
a
like
new
he
book.
aged that much either.
No, yeah, not really.
Oh, really? No, man.
He looks kind of the same. It's crazy.
Crazy.
He's on Twitter.
Yeah.
He's everywhere.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I do love that they started out. I'm not sure because again, I couldn't find the validity of like the derby racing. I don't know if I believe that part of it because that they're very different. The most you're going to get out of it is how to load in and run together. I guess that's definitely important,
right.
but the steering would be different. The terrain would feel different. Everything would feel different. But it was still funny and fun to watch. I did notice that I swear they had 2 cameras set up at the same time while they were making him run down the hill, and they gave us both shots.
I thought the same thing.
You saw it
one
too,
from like
okay.
a profile going downhill, and one was like from front, coming towards. Yeah, totally.
And he fell over the cart the same way, and I was like,
I totally thought
I
that
saw
too.
this
Like,
from a
that's
different
2
angle
cameras.
earlier. So that was interesting. And then the other shot that I
Yeah,
noticed,
yeah.
of course, was the head up against the ice that just felt like, is that a dummy? Like I was worried about the human.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
you know, in
exactly.
that.
I was too. I was like, that does not look good.
And I
I
don't
feel
think
like
that.
some of like the standards and practices were a lot more lax back then. I wouldn't be surprised if they just kind of did it and let it happen. Like a
Yeah, 'cause
stunt
I
guy
mean, some
did
of
it.
that, some of the stuff they were practicing on the dirt looked rough. Like,
right?
And there's people in those things, and there's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
they got hurt. There's no way they didn't get hurt.
Now, how many people were Jamaican in this movie? Is what I would like to.
I don't think a lot.
I don't think so either.
And
I don't
probably
think so
like
either.
none of them. I don't think any of the main cast was.
Right. I know John Candy wasn't. Pretty sure.
Now
John
there
Candy-
are white Jamaicans. To be fair, to be fair,
He's full on Canadian.
full on. He's a Canadian.
It was really good to see
treasure.
John Candy in this too. You know, it's like I think that was part of the reason I got kind of emotional with this watch because it was like correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like one of his last films, I believe.
It's getting
Like,
close to the end. Yeah.
yeah, getting close to the end. Yeah. Yeah, he's really great. Like I loved his delivery of like when the that sports organization like let them
Oh,
back in after they
yeah.
disqualified them.
Yeah.
And like the way he delivers that and everything, like he's gonna like turn it around, but like it was great. Even when he delivered, he didn't get all like, "We're back in." He was like, "Yeah, we're back." Just totally just straight.
This was fourth from the last film for him.
Fourth from that.
So he did this, then he did Hostage for a Day, where he was uncredited. Wagons East, which bombed terribly, and then of course Canadian Bacon was his last film.
Right.
So this was the last highly rated film he was in, would be the way to put that. And the film before that he got any recognition for would be JFK. So he really was kind of at the end there. So
yeah.
But he is so great. It's almost like every time you see him, you're like, hey, that's like my movie uncle. Like it just feels like he's always felt like family in one way or another. And then it's funny because I've had a lot of friends over the years who love movies, but they don't understand the attachment to some of these actors. So like when Robin Williams passed years ago at this point, which is weird. My wife was destroyed and still is to this day. I was pretty destroyed, and many people were. But people will be like, why are you crying? I'm like, because I literally grew up with these people telling me things. Like my whole life, they were telling me stories and life lessons, and I grew up literally watching them. And so you're going to expect me to just be like,
also,
whatever?
it's like,
come on.
But also, it's like basic empathy.
There's that as well.
When stuff, like I feel like people are like, you didn't know him. Like, yeah. So I don't have to like know the person.
You know what I mean? Like I kind of did though.
No,
we knew their work.
Well, then we started hearing more about like, especially with Robin Williams, we started hearing more about his struggles and like, and mental health and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, man, I mean, he was just so like kind and generous, and and like would reach out. He wouldn't put himself first. That's for sure. Like he was really great friends with Christopher Reeve and was deep in his foundation and everything. Was like really supportive of Christopher Reeve when Robin Williams is probably going through his own stuff at the time. So it's like, I know I don't understand it too. Where people are just like, they're just an actor or whatever. It's like,
but it's like the person you are today, you have been influenced by everything you've absorbed up until this point. So how could you not be a little bit?
If you're a movie hound, like if you've seen two Robin Williams movies, okay, like I understand you're not all busted up about it. But when Christopher Reeve died, I was busted up because that was Superman. Like that was, and even his other body of work, was
that one messed me up.
Right. That's I think one of the first celebrities I remember dying and noticing, like what, like because I was young enough still that he was, I was a teenager, I think, when he passed, or maybe early 20s, but it still hit me hard because I was like, oh dude, that's the Man of Steel. How did he die? It really messes with you because you get that in your head. And I've spent my whole life like trying to separate that, to make sure that I know they're separate. But then the actor dies and I'm like, damn it, that's real world. That's hard not to, how do you separate that? So John, when he died, that was a hard moment. And he died young. He was 43. So he's younger than I am now, which is, as you get older, that's a scary bit when you're like, wait, what do you mean so-and-so was so old when they died? Right. Yeah. I don't like hearing that. Anyway.
But like I mean, just to add on to that last bit, I mean, I can't, not everyone is like this, but most movies probably shaped a lot of who I am right now, like big time. Like, and I'm not saying like my parents were just like stuck me in front of a TV or something. That was my pleasure, I wanted to watch those things.
Yeah.
So,
you're not the cable guy.
Cartoon, you can include cartoons and TV shows in that too. Like a lot of stuff I watched, like really formulated a lot of my opinions and trains of thought, and
even like sense of humor.
Yeah. So when one of them passed away, it's almost like a part of me also kind of it's not gone. It's always there. I can go back and watch it, but it's just like, man, like it sucks.
You're not gonna get anything new from them anymore. Yeah. I know.
And sometimes that's
thanks,
okay.
Guys, that's it.
I'm depressed now. We are shutting the show up. But sometimes that's almost, and not that I'm glad that people die in any way, but sometimes people's careers are already diving and then they pass, and you're like, oh, that's hard to watch them fail off and then pass.
Not like end on a high note.
Right.
thing. Like, yeah.
But at the same time, then there's people like Heath who died, and we're all like, "Damn, what would he have done? You know, what could we have seen from him?
What was next?
Yeah.
We're gonna go ahead and talk
Chadwick.
about dead actors for the next half an hour.
Yeah, here we
if you guys
go.
are wanting to
Here we
get
go, Dead Actor
depressed. You know, apparently that's where we're going. But it's part of the topic. You know, we can't talk about Cool Runnings without talking about a great we've lost.
Right.
Anton Yelchin.
Dude.
Man, yeah.
Yeah.
Are we done? I'm not gonna. That's my last.
Who's next? Who we got?
Well, I mean,
Very
Betty White died not that long ago. You know, about a year
David
ago.
Bowie. The same year everyone started for some
Yeah.
reason. That's a hard year.
Yep.
Music too. Here we go.
Mm,
I don't know. Well, he was also he was in a few films.
He was an actor.
Oh, he was an actor.
He was
Yeah.
in a few
Yeah,
films.
yeah.
I love Labyrinth and all his tights and everything. You know, whatever.
That hair.
The hair. He
God
said,
bless
"I will have my balls in this."
Hell yeah.
They called it a package. It's a package. He must have his package. I think that was just he had done a lot of, you know, going to ballet shows, and he was like, "Those look comfortable. I think I'm going to wear those in my
Right.
next movie."
I wear those all day. Yeah.
It's like the '80s sweatpants, you know. Yeah, anyway, so Cool Runnings.
John Turteltaub directed this, and he's like kind of a Disney. He directed a lot of Disney.
Yeah.
He directed the National Treasure movies, Sorcerer's
Mhm.
Apprentice, The Kid. What else
Well,
did
there
he
you
do?
go. Another
A lot of stuff. Three Ninjas.
another
Which I don't
Disney
think is
movie
I
with
still haven't
adults.
watched that movie.
Yeah.
Sorcerer's Apprentice, another Disney movie with adults, and a modern one, which is good. I
Yeah.
actually enjoyed that movie. John Turteltaub. What else did he direct? Because I thought there was more than that. Those were the
He
big
did
ones.
the Meg.
Oh, he's done a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, the Meg.
Meg.
I like that movie too.
While you were sleeping, it looks like.
Instinct. Yeah. While you're sleeping. And Phenomenon.
The Meg hurts. That movie was not. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
it was fun, man. It was a
No.
load of fun.
That
I got
movie
so
was-
much fun with that movie.
That movie was so
Funny.
painful.
Yeah. Iena mentions that Zimmer did the score for Cool Runnings.
Oh, that's
Yes.
Did
I
he
had to bring that
really?
up.
That
Thank
was like,
you.
whoa.
Thank
Did he
you.
really?
Yeah.
Thank you. Because every time I see the credits, I forget. Like, oh
Yeah, I had
man,
no
the great
idea.
Hans Zimmer. That makes this movie even better.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, I know.
He's like, my name is Hans Zimmer.
But he
I'm
also
doing
wasn't. I don't know. Was he?
I
Yes.
think it's
He was
honestly
big at
like
this
too
time.
hated
2 or 3 songs,
I
like
too hated
maybe
the-
the.
Jamaican bobsled team.
Go
I'm
Germany.
cool,
right?
I'm cool and
So
There was
funny
no
story.
love interest in this film. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah.
No, yeah,
great.
you're right.
That's rare. Anyway, you were gonna say
It,
Mickey,
it was
sorry.
the sport. The sport was the love.
Yeah.
interest.
That's what it
the
was.
Cool
That's
Runnings.
shit.
No,
Or
the
the love of the game.
the sled
The love
was
of-
the love interest.
The love of country.
Yeah, there you
Right? Hey,
go.
that
You
was
know.
that was a big deal. Yeah, yeah.
That was actually big.
there was the
deal.
kissing booth scene with the
Oh yeah.
His girlfriend was
Whereas-
so pissed. She was so
Yeah.
pissed.
I was like, why did you think that was a good idea, man?
But then there's the like old
Yeah.
lady gross trope, which I'm not a huge fan of.
I thought about that too. Yeah.
Just give her a quick smooch, dude. She's giving you some money to go.
that's
you know,
auntie, bro. You just gotta give her
Canada.
Yeah. They're gonna make out with her.
Or yeah, or it says kissing booth. It doesn't say lips. Like just give her a kiss on the cheek, you know, or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, it's
polite,
not a
you
groping
know,
booth.
Right. I mean, if she threw down a 20, that's like more on her than it is on you.
True. I love, you know, the egg was the love interest. That's definitely
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Lucky egg, man. When he
Lucky
pulled, he was
egg.
pulling that thing out of some places where I
Yeah,
would,
and
yeah.
you and
Like at
Yul
the end,
Brynner
too,
was
I was like,
kissing it.
yeah.
Like, what are
He
you
is pulling
doing?
that out of something. Yeah, yeah.
Does he
He
wear
was
a
reaching way down
jockstrap?
in there.
You know?
That
Yeah.
was nestled between his other two eggs. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Just keeping it safe.
I assume it was made
Seinfeld.
of rock or something, because I don't think it was a real egg. I don't.
Yeah.
I well, no.
It looked like it was changing color too by the end of the movie.
Oh yeah.
And then the dude kissing.
How about the guy being named Yul Brynner? Like that's kind of
Yeah.
And I remember watching this
Yul
as a
Brynner.
kid, and like I didn't get it, and my dad would laugh, and I'm like, I don't get it. But as you got older,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I get
Oh,
it
yeah.
now.
Yeah, totally.
Yul
Yeah,
Brynner.
totally one of those things like Yul Brynner. Yeah.
My dad just got a kick out of it every time, and I was just
Yeah, buddy.
why is it funny?
Yeah, that is so funny too, because like that totally stuck out to me now. You know,
Yeah.
adult, like, oh yeah, that is funny.
No, that's the wrestler. My brain wants
Nope.
to talk about
Yep,
the wrestler
it's not.
really badly, actually.
I have a lot
I'll
to
say
say about
one
that
more
movie.
I did
one more
too.
cool thing about that the wreck that they have, where we said like
Mm.
that was footage from the actual thing, kind of edited
Yeah.
and clipped in there. But I just remember it stuck to my mind. I was reading I forget the name of the bobsledder, the actual bobsledder, talking about that crash,
Oh,
and he
God.
was like, I mean, he wasn't the driver, I forgot who he was, but he's like, I didn't even know we crashed. Like I just felt a bump.
Whoa.
But as fast as everything is and your head's tucked in, you don't know.
Yeah.
Mm.
He just felt a bump and he just thought, when you hit like a wall or something. He's like,
Wow.
I didn't realize we had crashed until I could smell the fiberglass of my helmet like
Oh,
melting.
geez, like,
He's
oh
like,
my
then I was like,
God.
oh wait, something's wrong.
Yeah. Wow. That's
He's like,
crazy.
out of all the things in my life that has stuck with me the longest is that smell. And I was like, wow, that's
Weird. Wow. Yeah.
There's
Damn.
another element I heard about, or I read about, I should say, where Junior, the character, of course, we get to the point where we're like, oh God, if he has to go home, they're done. They cannot do
Yeah.
this. In reality, they had a replacement. They had a fifth person, and they actually ended up
okay.
having to use him. So there's that element where there's even more
Mhm.
people. I love how movies do that. They're like, we only need these 4 characters. We need the coach. You're not in this
Yep.
movie. You know?
that was in Hoosiers too. They only had like 5 guys. to
Yeah.
start
Right.
with.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think they ended up with like 7, which is not a lot for a basketball team. either.
No, totally. Yeah, like no.
It's like The
bunch.
Replacements,
Yeah,
which is a movie
exactly.
we were gonna watch tonight, but it wasn't available. So
Yeah.
somebody sell the
Oh.
rights out there properly so we can watch that movie and review it. Because
Yeah.
that is
Been a
one
while
of my
since I've seen
favorite
that
sports
one.
movies. Like I absolutely
Yes.
adore that movie.
Mhm.
It's ridiculous.
Have you guys seen? Oh damn, I forget the name of it now. It's has Al Pacino and
Oh,
Any Given
Any
Sunday.
Given Sunday.
yeah, Any Given Sunday. Oh my God,
I love that movie. Yeah.
Man,
Kind of the opposite of The Replacements, but kind of the
so
same
dark.
movie.
Like yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a way,
It's
it
like
is
the
the same
darker
movie.
side of and like
Um,
and because it was so dark, the NFL did not back it. It's like
Right.
all these made up teams and
Yeah.
everything. So
But I love those. That uniform still six. The Sharks, the black.
Yeah.
Just like I love that.
yeah. Yeah.
The Longest Yard, both of them.
Oh
We could-
yeah.
we could
Both
get
of
down
them,
on
yeah.
those.
Yeah.
Draft Day, I've never seen. You
haven't seen Draft Day either.
no, which is weird because I like Costner, so I'm surprised I haven't watched it.
hmm
It's so weird how many movies I know about that I haven't seen. It's a strange thing because I
Mhm.
used to, I still
Sports movies
peruse like I
pop
used
in.
to peruse Blockbuster, but now I just do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too fantastic.
We could do a whole Costner sports week because he's been in
Oh, yeah.
multiple sports
Tons
films.
of sports movies. We would have to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
Field of Dreams. That's just a
Yeah.
requirement.
Bull Durham.
Oh God,
Bull Durham. So
Uh,
good.
That's one I
Tin
wanted
Cup.
to do, but it wasn't.
Yeah, yeah.
streaming.
Yeah.
It
Oh
wasn't
man,
streaming.
damn.
Bull
Yeah, I
Durham
love
is a
Bull
great
Durham.
movie, and again, early Tim
Yeah.
Robbins, but he's the
Amazing.
reverse of Howard the Duck. He's actually really good
Yes.
in Bull Durham.
Yeah. right.
How many
I
of
know
these movies have
Angels
you
in
seen?
the Outfield. Does
Angels
it-
in
Yeah,
the
Angels in the
Outfield.
Outfield.
Another Disney movie, I believe.
Yeah.
We could do 8 Men
Oh,
Out.
it is okay.
8 Men Out
Yep.
about the early White Sox.
The Rookie.
I don't think I've seen that one.
That one's. I'm surprised you haven't seen that one. So that one's got Charlie Sheen.
Oh yeah.
It's an 80s sports movie about the White Sox. It's
8
got
Men
more than
Out.
Charlie Sheen, but it's
Mhm.
you'll recognize most of the people in the film.
Okay.
If we're gonna just do all these, we're gonna put Babe in there. Right? We're gonna watch some John Goodman hitting baseball.
Oh,
Eating
man.
hot dogs, drinking beer.
That's another one of those movies that didn't delve into the reality. They just were like,
No,
look, great
right.
baseball player.
It was the mysticism, not the
right.
realness. Yeah.
Well, if we're gonna just start listing movies, what about The Natural? Like, I mean, there's so many sports movies that
There's a lot.
there's an
a lot.
early sports movie too. The Natural's an early one.
Or Pride of the Yankees is actually
Even earlier.
that's a hard one to watch. Yeah. That one's excellent though. That's about Lou Gehrig, Tyler.
Oh,
But yeah. And like what's funny, there's a funny joke in Friends about like that where Phoebe's trying to watch all these movies that are like uplifting and she accidentally watches Pride of the Yankees and she's like, oh, I thought I was gonna watch a movie about Yankee pride. No, the guy gets Lou Gehrig's disease. And then she was like, they're like, the guy is Lou Gehrig. Didn't you see that coming? Yeah.
So famous they
But it's a
named a
great film.
disease after him.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. God, now I want to watch Field of Dreams. When I think about all these baseball movies, I always go right back to that one because that's my go-to sports movie.
It's a League of Their Own for me.
There's another great sports movie.
Stuff too.
I still have to watch the OG one, not the TV show,
the film. Yeah.
Oh wow, okay. Put that on the list. Put it on the list. It's a good way to watch all these movies I've been meaning to watch. Because I haven't watched in forever. Man, see, comedies, this is a great movie, but what is there that we can really sink our teeth into a movie like this?
Right.
We have delved off on a beaten path here that's about sports still. We're still talking sports, but we're definitely not talking about bobsledding. Would you guys bobsled? How about that?
Hell
I've
no.
wanted to bobsled. Like,
No.
I love it. I like going fast. I love ice. Let's go.
Oh man, it's just I don't know, not protective enough. To me, it's just let's launch you in this like fiberglass bullet.
It's
Let's go.
Yeah, and just I mean, like, and you notice like if you look at the speed in the film, they're going like 75 miles an hour.
Yes.
In that thing, just not strapped in. Just
I love it. I don't know what it is.
Like,
there's something about that kind of stuff that I love. I guess I'm a roller coaster fanatic.
So am I. Like, I love roller coasters, but I'm like in there. Like, I'm strapped in.
You guys should Google original bobsleds right now.
Oh my god! I can't imagine.
These guys, they're wearing football, like classic early football helmets, like leather helmets,
like
and
leather?
doing that with an open sled, like a classic sled.
Like no
nothing, and they're like leaning all the way off the sled in order to like go.
Yeah, those are legit sleds.
That's some. I didn't even think about that. Like what original bobsled?
Where did bobsledding come from?
I mean, like obviously
Norwegian thing.
Sledding, obviously has always just been a thing, and somebody was like, let's take it up a notch, I guess.
But the thing is, like, the specifics about bobsledding is like it's in this chute. You know what I mean? It's not just a regular sled. So I feel like that's from a specific region of, somewhere, I would imagine. And it became kind of like curling's like, Canadian, and then oh man, oh my god. No.
Yeah, no BS. Like they were
just stick your feet out there, like
Switzerland.
And that was the Swiss right there.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. You can't even wear like a bunch of padding because you won't be aerodynamic. Like,
exactly.
Right.
Like,
a skin tight suit. Man. Eggs out and everything.
This is the original bobsled helmet.
Oh wow, look at that gimp mask.
Right? That's wild. This is entertaining actually.
I was like low-key like BDS.
Yeah, that
really was.
Terrified.
But that's like early 30s bobsledding there.
I smell a really good horror movie here.
Oh,
the bobsledder
with that mask, yes. Like four guys. Oh man,
he's just going around.
Anthony Hopkins like bobsledding.
I think he's just going around the like nationals. Can't be at the Olympics; it's too high profile. But he's around nationals, just knocking off sledders, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get revenge and win. We'll just do a very classic horror film.
It'll be a Scorsese movie. It'll be 3.5 hours long.
Yes,
he makes them. He makes them kiss his lucky egg before he does them. Man.
Oh,
he pulls it out too, and it's just like gross. Like
he's had it for years.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I wonder if some.
It and then he sniffs it. I'm ready for some bobsledding.
Let's go.
I still just want to know who decided which came first, bobsledding or luge, and who decided to throw themselves first.
Scary.
Yeah, face first on a sled.
Yeah, luge is like more terrifying for sure.
Going
just
even
laying
faster.
on top of that thing.
Yeah, just laying down. Yeah.
Can you remind what is the luge for the viewers, not for me?
One person, same deal as a bobsled, except face first.
But there's no surroundings. You're just laying on top of it.
There's no like
is it face
capsule.
First?
No, you're laying.
I think
first.
it's like
it's feet first.
They do street luge too, kind of.
Yeah, street luge is crazy. Yeah.
That one's freaky because they do it on hills and
Scary.
Yeah, on pavement. Yeah.
No thanks. I'll pass. There are so many sports like this that I'm just like, who decided to do this one day?
Let's do this.
I found a like what seems like an inconsistency in the movie because they're qualifying for the Summer Olympics, right? And Well, no, when they're sprinting. I'm sorry. When they're
So-
sprinting, they're trying to.
Oh yeah,
qualify
when they're
for-
yeah,
but that's
when
2 years
yeah,
later.
exactly.
So they're doing just the
That's-
qualifying rounds then.
Yeah.
right, and then like, but then when they're like, all right, well, let's qualify for the Winter Olympics. It's like you have 3 months to get ready. So like,
Right.
I was wondering like,
They
Like,
were
how much
in
time
the
has
on
passed?
I
year
know they're
for
every 2
Yeah,
years.
they
so
were
I was
on
like,
the
are
on
they-
year for winter. They were on the 2-year break and qualifying for summer.
Okay.
So it would have been
So I was like-
1990 that they were going to run for.
I would have thought like, there's no way these guys could get into a bobsleigh race.
Right.
even to like qualify, they'd be like, just too late. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be too late. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was kind of one of the reasons too. Like they disqualified them because like there's the whole they had to
That's
compete
right.
in international competition before the Olympics, and they had changed the rule and everything because John Candy understood as like, well, the trials and like just the trial run was counts as an
Counted, right.
international competition,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they had changed it. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Like, yeah, the timeline. I was thinking about the timeline too. I was trying to think about it too much because, like, I'm just trying to watch the movie. I was like, did they qualify? But
They just kept moving the goalposts. That's what. they
yeah,
did.
I did like,
Right.
and I do like, and I think films don't work without the almost don't make it, come back up, and then qualify. So where they got kicked out. Every good movie has to have that moment where you're like,
Yeah.
no, they might not
Oh,
do
yeah.
this, and then the comeback, especially in a sports film.
Uh-huh.
If you don't have that in a sports film, what are you making sports films for? I don't get it.
yeah. And it's usually in the second act.
hmm
Actually, like a lot of movies do it, not just sports films.
Right.
Where there's a moment of like all hope is lost moment.
Right. That's
you
the
know,
hero's journey,
somewhere in
though,
the
right? You
second
got to
act.
have that moment
Right,
in a hero's
exactly.
journey. And so they
Trials.
take from that. Yeah.
Yep.
Sports movies
And the thing
are
is,
the
I
hero's
don't
journey.
see it. I don't see it as much as the other way because according to the hero's journey, it can be either one. It can either be a really high moment or it can be a super low moment. But most films tend to go with the low moment because it's
Mhm.
like it's definitely more dramatic. But
Right.
because at the high moment, you could still lose everything, though.
Yeah.
But they tend to go with the more low moment and then
Mhm.
turn it around. So
It works, though.
Now that I think of Hoosiers, it's like that one didn't really have like a
yeah.
kind of like a
It had
No,
a high,
totally. It was
high.
like well, that was like what you mentioned, Tyler's like it seemed like, oh, this is the big game.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna end. Oh no, there's
Okay.
another big game. This is the end.
Right.
Nope. We got yeah.
Now he's making out like it has to be the end. Like,
Yeah, you're like you got the girl. 'cause
No,
saw
we have to
that.
zoom in on the
Uh,
picture before it's the end. That's
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
that's the rule.
Yeah.
Which happened in this movie too.
They did.
Yep.
They did zoom in. We had 2 sports movies where they zoomed on the picture, and again,
Totally.
they zoomed in on the fake picture in this movie too. So,
Yeah.
warning to all you sports movie makers.
But they did have the text at the end though.
They did.
They
did.
We at least got
Hey.
that.
oh,
Yeah, yeah.
would you guys
Um,
consider The Shining a sports movie then? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
hmm
there's some running in
Competitive
that
killing.
one. Some cool running in that one.
Yeah. Some
Right.
chopping.
I mean, there's lumberjacking as a huge sport now. So
yeah.
It is.
Oh, that's
Timber
right.
sports.
yeah.
Mhm.
There's a or even the when you make your own weapon and how fast and how well you can cut with it. Have you
Yeah.
guys seen those competitions? Like
Yeah,
cutting
those
the
are
rope
cool.
and bottles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he'd fit in there somewhere. That's terrible. We're going to do the pre-review, and then we're going to move on to the movie that I think we're all interested to talk about the most, and that is The Wrestler. Hello, Ray. Welcome.
Hooray.
You just missed Cool Runnings. We are about to rate it and move on to the pre-review. So we're going to start with Tyler. What did you think of Cool Runnings?
I'm gonna give it a 9 because I had so much. I just had fun.
Nice, yeah.
Not anything that was like kind of knocking. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's Disney Channel. I don't care.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Nice. All the movie things.
yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 8.5. Yeah, it's just a nice light, like we mentioned. Yeah, nice light movie, especially if you're gonna watch The Wrestler after. It's just like it's nice, or you could watch it after you watch The
Yeah,
Wrestler.
yeah, flip that.
So you
Yeah.
just- so it's like, yeah,
Not do
but
that.
yeah, I enjoyed it just as much as the first time. I watched it, so yeah, good to
Right.
see it.
How about you, Mickey?
Definitely a 9 because, like I said, I've probably lost count how many times I've seen the movie. I love everything about it, and
Mhm.
I learned so many great lessons as a young man watching the film.
I like it. I'm going to also give it a 9. It sounds like we're going to give it 9s around.
Yeah.
This movie deserves all the kudos and credit it gets. It made a lot of money for Disney and did really well.
Yeah, actually, I saw that too.
It was the highest grossing live action Disney movie to date when it was made. So it did really well. But John Candy, huge draw, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
I was going to say something else, but I completely forgot what it was. So we're going to move on. We are going to now do the pre-review, and we will be right back.
Biggie's pre-review brought to you by The Real Study, Sunday nights, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific.
Hey, it's Biggie coming at ya. Welcome to the pre-review. The pre-review is where I tell you about upcoming films coming to movie theaters and beyond. This week's episode is for January 30th through February 5th. First on my list is the drama comedy 80 for Brady. In 80 for Brady, 4 best friends live life to the fullest when they embark on a wild trip to see their hero, Tom Brady, play in the 2017 Super Bowl. Now, from the looks of this movie, it's got an excellent cast and we're in for a barrel of laughs. 80 for Brady premieres in movie theaters on February 3rd. Next on my list is The Amazing Maurice. The Amazing Maurice is an animated comedy. Maurice is a streetwise ginger cat who comes up with a money-making scam by befriending a group of self-taught talking rats. When Maurice and the rodents meet a bookworm called Milicia, their little con goes down the drain. Now, I, for one, am all about animation. I love animation, and I don't think this movie's going to be any exception. And I gotta say, I gotta love the ginger cat. The Amazing Maurice premieres in movie theaters on February 3rd. Next is Baby Ruby. In this thriller mystery, the tightly scripted world of a vlogger and influencer unravels after she becomes a mother. Now, this movie stars Kit Harington from Game of Thrones fame. I'm definitely looking forward to this one. Baby Ruby has a limited release in movie theaters coming February 3rd. This next one I've been really looking forward to. It's M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin. In this mystery horror, while vacationing at a remote cabin in the woods, a young girl and her parents are taken hostage by 4 armed strangers who demand they make an unthinkable choice to avert the apocalypse. Confused, scared, and with limited access to the outside world, the family must decide what they believe before all is lost. This movie was written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan. It stars Dave Bautista, Jonathan Groff, and Rupert Grint. I love M. Night Shyamalan, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this one. M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin premieres in movie theaters February 3rd. Next, we have The Locksmith. In this mystery thriller, a thief fresh out of prison tries to work his way back into the life of his daughter and ex-fiancée. He is forced to use the skills he has as a gifted locksmith, and things take a tumultuous turn after an unexpected disappearance. This movie stars Ryan Philippe, Kate Bosworth, and Ving Rhames. With such great casting, this movie looks fantastic. The Locksmith has a limited release in movie theaters and premieres video on demand February 3rd. And last on my list is Who Invited Charlie? The comedy Who Invited Charlie follows a New York City family hiding out in the Hamptons, whose bubble is popped when a Bloody Mary swilling Charlie comes to bring a lifetime of hurt that might heal them all. Now, this stars Jordana Brewster from the Fast and the Furious franchise, Adam Pally, and Reed Scott. Watching the trailer for this definitely gave me a laugh, and I'm looking forward to this one. Who Invited Charlie premieres in limited release in movie theaters on February 3rd. Well, that's all for the pre-review this week, and I hope to see you out there.
We are back from the pre-review. Biggie, looks great. Love the new pre-review. We love what you've done. We really appreciate you always telling us what movies to watch. And I saw Jordana Brewster is going to be in that last movie. That's one of my wife's. I got to meet that actor claim to fame. She got to meet Jordana Brewster. So, and I'm always like, well, that's one actor I've never gotten to meet. So That said, we are going to move on to The Wrestler, which is the final film of our evening. And this movie is directed by Darren Aronofsky, who has a short but very potent filmography. If you don't know and have never watched his movies, if you like being depressed, he's your guy. He's really good at those kinds of movies. And then, of course, this was the big resurgence for Mickey Rourke after kind of falling away. Sure, he had done Sin City before this, and some might argue that that was it, but I would say this is what squarely put him back on the map. Also starring Marissa Tomei and Evan Rachel Wood, among others, but those are the three big hitters. Let's start with Brian, since you were definitely the one talking about this on Twitter, and you were happy when this got picked. So, how many times have you seen it? Nice.
Yeah, I love this movie so much. It's just, it's hard to watch at times, but so heartbreaking. To Mickey Rourke is incredible. He really deserved that Oscar nomination. That was his first Oscar nomination. Marissa Tomei, like there's this whole parallel kind of storyline, I feel like, with her and him. Great camera work. I'm pretty sure most of it's handheld, which I'm like a kind of a fan of handheld. And it's not like induced handheld. It's very much like just kind of there, you know. And but that, like, it almost felt like a documentary at times watching this thing. And yeah, I just love this movie so much. Just the look of it, the feel of it. Just, there's not a moment in it that lulls for me. Like, it's just, man, yeah, everything about it's so good.
All right. I'm going to take next shot on this one, just because I don't do that very often. I did notice they followed him over the shoulder a lot in this movie, and it was almost like we were literally following him around through the end of his life. And I do think that added to it. It wasn't pointless. It wasn't just following around for no reason. It was literally kind of what it would look like from his perspective, walking into all these places. And I love how he used that even when he walked into the deli. You hear the crowd cheering.
I know. I love that.
Open the curtains, and he walks in, and he started to do what he does out there on the wrestling mat. But at the deli, he started to own it. You know, if you do something well enough or long enough, you can start performing. Right. So he started to perform. Maybe a little too far. Maybe he took it a notch too far. But yeah, no, this is definitely a solid film. I think the acting across the board is phenomenal. I have to give it to Evan Rachel Wood on this one. She is brilliant. Like, she always nails all of her roles, and she brings it in this one. I feel like she's ready to just rip his throat out in this movie. And you don't get to feel that from younger actors sometimes. There's that emotion seems to miss, or they just deliver what's given to them. She's always been phenomenal for the years. So definitely worth a watch. How about you, Mickey?
This is an amazing movie that I had heard about, but I hadn't watched until the Oscars, the Academy Awards. And I kind of told myself, like, I need to watch this, because as someone who grew up in that wrestling era, like watching it and being a big fan of it in the 80s and early 90s, I sat down, I rented it, I sat down and watched it. And like you said, Brian, it affected me. Like, it kind of, I remember making a list of movies on TikTok one time of like movies that changed me. And this was one of them. Because it just, I don't know, it moved me in a way that a lot of films don't. And seeing a character like this is very like real to me, where he's stuck in his ways. He's not necessarily a bad guy. He's just a guy that's just not going to change. and we see where that gets you, which is, you know, usually not a good place. But even so, there's this guy, this really good guy who's just fighting to get out, but
Yeah.
he's never going to. You know, he's not. You kind of feel. I feel that the whole movie, like
Right.
he's never getting out of this. Like this is always going to be where
Yeah.
he's at. So yeah, it meant a lot to me watching it. And I remember just feeling, because at this point, I don't know how much you guys know about wrestling, but Jake the Snake Roberts' story was kind of out there, and this really paralleled to it a lot.
Yeah.
And I grew up being kind of a big fan of Jake the Snake, so like I felt that I was feeling all the interviews he's had and all the things I've seen about him, and then you also see all these other wrestlers and those scenes where they're like having like the meet and greets set up, like at the VFW or the American Legion or whatever.
Yeah.
I used to go to those. I remember going to see wrestlers at like the grocery store. Like they would be set up like at the front door. Nikita Koloff, I don't know if you remember who that was, way back in the 80s. He was a guy, I remember meeting him. Like I walked in the grocery store, my dad's like, "Hey, there's Nikita Koloff. Let's go talk to him."
Oh, crazy.
And so I had seen all of this stuff before, so it was very like real to me anyway. It was just it was crazy. It's a great movie. Even if you're not into wrestling, you can still find a relatable storyline here, and they do such a good job of making you feel what he's feeling.
Yeah.
He does a good job of making you feel what he's feeling.
Man.
Tyler, what did you think of The Wrestler? Was it your first time?
I want to say it's my second time. The first time I had watched it was with my roommates because they're super into wrestling. I wasn't so much, but I watched it with them. I don't remember half of that movie. I don't know if I was like in and out of it. It wasn't because it was bad. But I already knew, like, going in, Darren Aronofsky, like, he loves like the exploration of like insanity, right? Like when people do the same thing over and over, you know, expecting different results. But like, I have a theater background, so like I did like a couple years in like college, and like that's what it reminded me a lot of, and like going behind the scenes. And I love that a lot of the characters, when you would expect like it'd be like brutal outside, right? Like everyone's like hardcore, but like everybody's loving. There's a lot of love. Like people respect each other. And I think that's like part of the tragedy is like he's surrounded by a lot of love, but like, and he doesn't, you know, like he might not realize it. And I think that's like a lot of the times when I was in theater, like people are going through things, but like we don't know because half the time we're acting and we're having fun and we're trying to like be supportive, but like everyone's, you know, going on, you know, have their own thing in their head going on. I mean, we can talk about the cinematography after, but like I loved all the over the shoulder stuff. I was like, yep, this feels exactly how it should feel. Like it almost feels like we shouldn't be watching what we're seeing.
That's a good point. Good point.
For sure.
I agree with that. There is something about Aronofsky wanting to explore the darker side, and this is a strange movie because instead of having a clear cut kind of ending, not all of his movies do, but some of them do have a fairly clear cut ending on how things happen. This one, you could call it clear cut, but at the same time, we don't know because we don't actually see the
it's
results.
Still a little ambiguous.
But I think we all agree that it's likely that the black fade to black was his fade to black. To me, that's the stylistic choice there.
I mean, you can see it in his face.
And he was holding his chest that whole time.
Man, it's so, and like, even like the actor playing the Ayatollah is like checking in on him during the match and everything. It's just like, oh man. And like Tyler, you made a good point about like, there's all this like respect and love and like mutual respect and everything between everybody. One of my favorite, there's a bunch of favorite scenes in this, but one of my favorite ones is when like it's the first match that they show and everyone's like in the back like talking to each other and like working their routines out and everything. Like, oh, then you're gonna like, you know, do his neck thing. Oh, you guys gonna do the next thing? Oh, okay.
We're doing the foot thing. We're doing the foot thing.
Yeah. Oh man, I just love like those little bits are so good, and those are all real wrestlers too. Like all those guys in that are like real.
Well, and his heel in that scene, he does a great job. I don't know wrestling well, but I do know that a heel is of course the bad guy, right? He's the shit on. Right?
Oh yeah.
And his heel in that scene is like looking up to him and like, hey man, you know, why don't we work this out? And they like figure out how they're gonna do it. and that kid looks so happy to just be around Ram.
Yeah.
But when he's out on the mat, that actor did a great job, or that wrestler did a great job, because I'm like, holy shit, he's gonna eat him alive, and you believed it. Like I did believe it, even if you could tell the moves are fake, even if you can see them signaling each other, it still had an element of realism because you could see that they believed it, they bought it, and I like that. But again, I was saying this before the show, those. Even the Randy character bought into his character outside of the ring on a regular basis and was like, oh yeah, I got cut, I got hurt. Wait, dude, you hurting yourself. You're not getting cut.
He's showing off all these scars and everything.
Right. But they're all him. He's done them.
Yeah,
or,
exactly. He's doing it. Yeah.
Or I'm sure there are accidents. I know people are going to get hurt. You throw yourself off a freaking mat.
Yeah,
you're going to get hurt. Sooner or later. I did watch wrestling when I was a kid, but around 13 I stopped. I think most sports for me stopped right around then, which is weird. Not that weird, but anyway. But I was big into it at the era of Andre the Giant Hulk Hogan, and I got to watch that match live, and like most people did. So it harkened back to that. It did have that feeling. It felt like old school wrestling rather than modern wrestling, but it's probably because they're doing much more on the road, smaller venues, diehards, rather than the big, John Cena types.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like these guys aren't like WWE type wrestlers. There's like, so Snitty, I don't know if you know, but like here in Portland, like I grew up watching like, it's like low level like wrestling at like 2 a.m. It's like on like, what's it called? Like
local access.
Yeah, they would show it. And like Portland wrestling was like a big thing, especially in the 80s and 90s. Like, and it's all these, it's just like in like one of those venues, like in a school or something, a gymnasium kind of thing. And so that's what it reminded me of too, is like these guys just like had a passion for it. And it was like really great to see. That just brought me back to like watching all those guys, but also WWF stuff at the time was WWF. But I was like super into it as a kid, watching those guys too. But
that means Tyler,
you definitely don't see this side,
right? Tyler, that means you're young enough that you don't remember when it was called WWF. It was called WWE your whole life.
Yeah.
There was a big, World Wildlife Foundation got a little pissy about their WWF being used by the World Wrestling Foundation, so they.
And the weird thing is, it had been WWF for years,
right?
Yeah,
but the World Wildlife Foundation had been WWF for far longer,
right? For sure.
So they definitely. I don't know. It's interesting, but it messed me up because as a kid, I was like, "What happened? Why'd they add a stick to the F? What happened?" I didn't get it. But it's politics, it's copyright. It's, but much like the XFL, trying to make other leagues, there have been a variety of attempts to make other wrestling leagues and weirdness.
Yeah.
Rourke in this film looks like he got beat up before he even gets beat up. And it's hard considering, I don't know if you've ever looked at a young picture of him, Tyler, but he was considered a heartthrob in the 1980s. Like a diehard heartthrob. And to see him so busted, of course, him embodying that for this role really helps. Obviously, he lets it go. Marissa Tomei, another example where she's also older and having to embody that character where she's probably heard people say terrible shit to her now that she's older. And really taking on the role.
That was an interesting thing that I always like connected with too, as far as like noticing that it's not, it's called The Wrestler. It's very much about, the Ram, but her character very much is like on a similar path in a lot of ways, like she's dealing with this point in her life, she's older, she's having to deal with like people not accepting her because of that, and trying to come to terms with that kind of idea. And you really like, they did such a good job of that too. It's just like these little subtle moments.
Well, they're both performers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And she's trying to she still thinks, I should be doing this like as an older mom, you know what I mean? But
there is like a slight what I think sets them apart is hers is much more like separated from I guess like society or like
it's not so, like in the public
she's
eye.
not supposed to connect with people, she's not supposed to get close to people, where this guy is supposed to be connecting with everyone in the room, like everyone should feel his presence, feel his vibe, feel his energy, whereas she's just kind of like, you know, I can't get to know you at all.
Yeah.
Well, I did like what you pointed out about like the parallels between them, especially like the ending. It was like, for me, it was like, okay, so she's a version of him if he became more than just a like, you are more than that, and she's more than a stripper. She is, and she was able to exit, and he wasn't able to, like, that killed me. I was like,
I know,
and he could have right then.
He was working to get out, and he was just working to stay in.
Yeah. I feel like too, there's like, because there's a moment where you think, okay, he's gonna finally like get on this path to be okay, but for him, like, there's just a pull there that she has to like have, and because it turns out like to be the only thing he like has in his life, you know, it's like he tried, even though like he doesn't really. It's tough because like he does try, but he should be like keep trying, you know, and really try to like not give up with trying to connect with his daughter again. And it's like, okay, I gave him one last shot. That's it. I'm gonna go back because there's nothing left for me. Screw it. I'm just gonna go all out and finally go out with a bang. It's like he almost decided after like that interaction with his daughter, that last one. Where he's like, okay, well, and then also with Marissa Tomei's character too, that was like
a little bit with the kids as well, because one of my favorite scenes is when they wake him up in the morning and they're like, Ram, wake up, and the kids, you know, he comes out and he's like, who woke me up, and he starts wrestling with the neighborhood kids. I really love that scene. It's very tender. But then later on, one of those same kids, he's like, come play Nintendo, and the kid's like, dude, you're not playing Call of Duty, what are you doing? I gotta go, dude. And he was rejected even by his biggest fan base, right? And so that was his first rejection, you know, and it kind of kept happening. So then Marissa, and then his daughter, and etc. And
I thought that like hammered in, like, I was like, man, he's just stuck in his ways. He's old, like he's not gonna be able to get out of this.
The music he listens to is like all from the 80s. He even talks about how much he hated the 90s and music. Makes a dig at Kurt Cobain, right? You know, like
I was not cool with that, by the way.
No, dude.
And like also a fun thing about that game, like they actually made that game like
just for this movie.
So it's actually a function.
I was like, is that Punch Out? But not really.
It was like WrestleMania, but like a different version. Another fun little fact is that they went to Axl Rose and was like, hey, we don't have any money. Can we take your song? And they're like, yeah, go ahead, take Sweet Child of Mine. And they didn't charge.
Well, the other thing too is like Slash was a guitarist on the score.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Actually, Slash was actually doing guitar on it.
It's even better. Mickey, you were going to say something.
You know, when we were talking about the kids, you know, the last thing kind of being that kid not playing the game with him, it's even more heartbreaking to see like Marissa Tomei's son playing with his action figure. That was probably like the heaviest, at least this last watch, that was one of the heavier scenes for me, where I was just like, my heart kind of sunk. I was like, man, like those kids would still look up to you, you know.
I think
Did you guys notice that?
Go ahead, Tyler.
Oh, my bad.
No, please, Tyler, go.
No. I was wondering if, like, I don't know if like you can confirm this because you've watched it a bunch of times, but the music, I feel like they only played music whenever there was like the highest version of that emotion. Like most of the movie's kind of quiet. Like the part where he goes out with his daughter, there's music. I think, and then the ending scene with Sweet Child of Mine and all that. Like there's only a music ever when there's like a really high moment, even if it's like sad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say there's some truth to that, because even in the bar with Marissa Tomei, they're sharing that moment because there's a song that they both love. You know, it's this 80s song, of course.
Rat, round and round.
Exactly. Yeah. So good. I mean, it even opens with his song, which that's another thing I loved about this movie, is like how they open it, like with the credits, and they're just kind of covering all of these different ads and pamphlets and stuff from his history from the 80s and stuff in his heyday, and they're playing his like song that he comes out to, So it's a great introduction into just like the whole world of the film, really, and what he is. And then we cut to like 20 years later. We don't even see his face at all, It's like him leaning. Oh man. And just that whole scene is so great because he's just in a single chair in like what's looked like a playroom for
I think
kids.
it was like a preschool room or something.
Yeah, like oh my god, just like man, it's just that's so
stark contrast.
So many great things I love like about this film. I mean, and like Ian had mentioned, like it's hard to watch that hardcore match too.
Oh yeah.
With the staples. Yeah, it's still like every time it's like, but I love the edit in that how they go back and forth, between like the
talking about the match.
Yeah. You'll like so when like he's getting the stuff pulled out of him. Back to the actual match when it's happening. And they keep going back. Oh man, dude.
No thanks.
I hated that era of wrestling,
right?
Where that backyard wrestling, where it was like it was just for shock value, and those guys were just trying to be popular, even though they weren't athletic like the other.
I blame
professional
Jackass,
wrestlers.
but that's my.
And that guy even said it. That guy even said it when they were talking about the match. He was like, "Look, man, you want me to like maybe do one bump or something? I might can run the ropes one time, but like, like we can't do a whole lot of stuff.
They're not very athletic, like you said.
It's just, man, I people like it. That's cool, but I always felt like it cheapened what pro wrestling was, and like it's okay to introduce that stuff in small amounts, but just this.
Yeah, what's wrong with just a chair? Like, what? Just hit him with a chair. It's fine.
Man, the
occasional barbed wire.
Barbed wire on a crutch. Like, what's that, dude? Like, that's hardcore. Hit him with the leg. Hit him with my leg. Yeah, that was. Apparently, that's real. They did that in one match.
You talking about the prosthetic leg? Yes, that was ECW.
That happened.
The guy threw it in the ring, and you can look it up. It's Tommy Dreamer, prosthetic leg, and just hit the dude with it.
It's crazy. Wild.
That ECW was like another thing, like in the world. It was just underground phenomenon.
Yes, Mickey Rourke was a professional boxer at one point. And he was athletic, so that's one of the reasons he's perfect for this role.
His build was perfect, like for professional. Like he just looked like a professional wrestler. Like,
the band that he had on his arm, the whole thing.
The body build, everything was
the hair.
What it was. Yeah.
The hair was so 80s.
What's funny is like I went so far as like so when I was casting for my thesis film, it was so tough to do because like I mean, Tyler, I'm sure like I hate the audition process. First of all, it's like just having to like pick and choose these people based on like so many superficial things.
Right.
And they're like, oh, you're so great, but you don't look like a heroin addict.
You're gone.
But you can't say that.
Like they all look like dads, which is like what he was. He was a dad, but also he's like had a rough life. And there's just this one actor. Like I wasn't even trying to like cast a lookalike for Mickey Rourke, but this guy had long hair. He even had a limp already, a natural limp. I wrote a limp that the character had a limp in the film, and he already had one. And he was tall, like had a similar build. Mickey Rourke just looked like he had lived a life. You know what I mean? He was actually in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. He had like a small role in that, I guess. So cool. Part in Oregon. But yeah, so like he's like my Mickey Rourke, basically. The film like has this really long hair. Yeah. And he kind of it was tough to direct him because he kind of was trying a method thing. I was not ready for that. Like yeah, so.
I can only imagine.
I bet method actors are like not fun. Or, like they can't be good.
It was not fun. I was like super
Wouldn't it
nervous.
Depend on the character? It depends on the character they're playing. If they're playing a fun character,
I don't know. Crispin Glover apparently was like pretty hardcore in Back to the Future. He's supposed to be like he was hard to work with.
Yeah. Yeah, this guy was hard.
I wouldn't want to work with George McFly though, so like that makes sense. Like,
okay, I got you.
You know,
neurotic.
Yeah. If it were, Patch Adams, I wouldn't want to work with him either. Like, I would be like, no, it's too much. I don't know. I think there may be a couple characters, but if it's, any of the ones that we've talked about.
But this is why I can't like Daniel Day-Lewis. Like, I mean, he pulls it off, but like if he walked in and he's like, "I'm Lincoln," I'm like, "Nah, dude,
It's not Halloween, man. It's not Halloween.
I'm
I'll be
afraid."
president all the time. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like weird.
It
man.
might be interesting the first little while, but it would probably get old.
Yeah, it definitely wears on you.
I think his
we
wife
only
is the
did-
reason he had to retire. She was like, "I'm done
Yeah.
with this, dude. You're not doing this anymore. I need my
Yeah.
normal
Your piece is
husband."
probably only a couple days, right? Like I can't. Or how
Yeah, it was
long?
only a weekend. We shot over a weekend.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and even that was just like, damn. Like, especially the first day. First day, like, oof. And none of us knew what to expect. You know, none of my crew knew anything. Like, I didn't know he was going to do this. We didn't ever discussed it. Like, we did table reads and stuff, and it was
He just
Yeah.
did it. He just decided.
yeah. He just came, and it was like, oh damn, I got to do with this. Yeah, but, yeah. I was lucky to have like my my good friend of mine, and all. He was a producer on it. He definitely like basically would wrangle him in, so I could focus on other stuff. Like, cause like, yeah. But
Whoa.
it was a good experience. Like he definitely made the film what it is for sure. Like the way he was acting. So, but yeah, that's how much this film really, the wrestlers really meant to me, because it was like there's so many parallels to, like, I relate a lot to Evan Rachel Wood's character, growing up with like, not to get too serious, but like my parents were heroin addicts growing up, and so my father especially, like there's a lot of like abandonment stuff there and everything, and like so I connected it with him in that way, where he's like addicted to this world of wrestling, and we needed to like, that's all he knew, you know, and basically abandon her and everything. And so a lot of that element really like informed like my own kind of like film and my own life, really. So that's why this one like really hits pretty hard for me. But yeah, I love it.
Aronofsky does it a lot, huh? Like with family stuff. Like
Yeah.
just terrible family situations.
No, totally. Like,
God.
yeah.
I mean, you've seen
thing about
Requiem,
this
I
one too is
assume.
like, this one doesn't feel like Requiem for a Dream is like so like extreme, right? Where this one feels a little more like accessible and real, and like that's why it feels so much more like a documentary to me in a lot of ways. Like you said, Tyler, like it feels like a lot of times we shouldn't be there, you know, like we're watching, like we're a fly on the wall kind of thing, which I love that. Yeah.
And then he did Black Swan, and it's just like,
yeah, it's like, whoa. I know. Totally. Yeah.
So how much did Mickey Rourke get paid for this film? Because I heard like he did it for free, and then I heard like it was $100,000, and I heard it was like he wanted it in, you know, cash in a brown paper bag. Like I heard I read so many different rumors. I was like, to be sure he got paid to do the film.
Oh my god, yeah, for like,
you know,
what he's
but I was like,
doing it.
I was wondering if all that stuff was true, and
I bet that's all for the marketing again, really.
Maybe.
probably.
I'm not seeing anything in the trivia.
Yeah.
So maybe true, maybe not.
Because
I know that I think Aronofsky was his first choice was Mickey Rourke, and they wanted to actually cast Nick Cage.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw that would have been so different.
I wouldn't have liked the movie. It would not have worked. I don't know.
Probably not.
Cage, when he gets like the only version of a movie that he's done that was super serious that worked was Leaving Las Vegas, but he was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And I think he almost feels like he's almost an alcoholic in a lot of roles, so it works for him because it's kind of within his wheelhouse. But I don't think he could have done this. I don't know. He doesn't have the physique. He doesn't have the.
Yeah, exactly. He's not that physical. Like Mickey Rourke was like very physical person anyway. So a search I did shows that contrary to reports that Mickey Rourke didn't get paid, there's a profile of Aronofsky in March 17th, 2014 issue of New Yorker mentioned that Rourke got paid about $100,000 for the role.
What was the budget on this movie?
So he did get paid. I guess it was, they actually like
$6 million.
Only used like a third of the budget that they originally had. Yeah. So he was like super under budget.
Made 26. So it did all right. Made 44 worldwide. Never mind. So it did just fine. Going back to the film, one of the scenes I think that was pivotal to him starting down the path of going right back to getting out of retirement was, you know, seeing the colostomy bag on the guy's leg and seeing seeing all the older veteran wrestlers just trash. And he was like, he didn't like being there. You could tell he was really uncomfortable sitting there realizing he was one of them now that he had the scar.
He's broken. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
And he didn't want that. He couldn't live with that. And I think that once he tried to be real and try to live his life like a normal person and couldn't, it was very easy for him to be like, nah, I'm going to do this until I die, even if it's this time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't know. That scene was the one that stuck out to me the most, just because
No, for sure.
I'm getting older. I'm 45. My body's busted up. I've got all sorts of problems. And I'm like, oh. Duh. I'm with you, man. I get it. So
Right.
Yeah.
And I like that scene too, because the way they're gonna square the wrestling ring,
Right.
and
It's like
but
a
also
ring.
it's like he's staring at like gravestones, like he's literally in a graveyard. The room feels like cold. It's like
Totally.
yeah, it's that like kind of tacky tile floor. Like linoleum. It doesn't feel welcoming in many ways. It's I don't know. It is definitely a brutal film. I definitely cried at the end because I felt like, man, how many wasted lives are there? Like, not wasted because of what he's done, but where it is now. Because obviously he brought joy to the world for a long, long time. But how much are those people worth to us when they're done? When they're cooked, if you will. There's a lot of people we just kind of throw aside. In a sense, this was a film about how we treat senior citizens.
Kind of, yeah. I could see that.
In just a subtle sense, not like, but it is how we treat people once they're over the hill, once they're past their prime.
Yeah, there's like an ageism element to it, especially like with Marissa Tomei's character.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And being a woman, there's this other element added onto it.
Yep.
I mean, especially when her body is all about, or her job is all about her body and her physical appearance, and like that's how she's making her money. So
not to be gross or weird or anything, but I don't understand what anybody in that movie had a problem with.
I know.
I was thinking the same thing.
I know,
not to be, but like,
no, really, right? It's like it's
I know what you mean.
Yeah, she's freaking.
This is the hardest part for me to believe that people are like, nah, not you.
Yeah. Nah.
Especially in a place like that didn't seem super reputable anyway.
Right.
Like, I'm sure there weren't a whole lot of supermodels or anything, or whatever you want to call them. But
It's like that movie I just saw with Paul Rudd and Michelle Pfeiffer, where she's supposed to be this older woman, single mom and career focused life, but it's Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
I'm
not believing it. There you go.
Yeah, because even what is it on Parks and Rec, where Claudia Schiffer, is it Claudia Schiffer? No, Christy Brinkley. Christy Brinkley is on the show, and they're like, she's in her 60s, and people are like, but that's Christy Brinkley.
Yeah.
There is that element where it's just, I don't know. To me, it just boils down to there's not just ageism, but like, if you're not 22, what are you doing here? Basically.
Right.
You could be 23 and they'd be like, no, leave. Barney, basically, all those guys were Barney from How I Met Your Mother.
Or Leo DiCaprio.
In real life. Is he is he just Barney? I think it feels like he might be.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Well, I think maybe we've reached the end of tonight's episode. Do you guys feel like there's anything else you want to bring up about The Wrestler or any performances?
Just Marissa Tomei and Mickey Rourke are both in Marvel movies.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good
I
point.
forgot. I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
They are both Marvel actors.
It all goes back to Marvel eventually. Like,
And Evan Rachel Wood isn't?
No.
She's not.
That's what I was gonna say. This is canonically the final season of Westworld for me, The Wrestler.
That's great. That's great. No, she hasn't. She will be. Sooner or later, every actor will be in Marvel. That's the rule.
Yeah.
They're running out. They're running out.
Yeah.
They're going to start bringing them back around. Chris Evans is going to come back and play yet a third character so that they can just keep recycling actors. All right, well, let's go ahead and rate this film, and we will call it an evening. Next week, it's either going to be Tyler's picks or sub week. We haven't figured it out yet, but we will be figuring that out. Maybe I'll put Tyler under pressure to figure all 3 movies out tonight so we can be ready. He's like, no, don't do that to me. Don't do that. But we're open, Tyler, so you can get us all sorts of stuff we've never really thought of or heard of.
Yeah, totally.
So hit us up with that.
Pressure.
Oh,
yeah. We won't do it on the show. You don't have to do it live, so you won't have too much pressure. We'll do it off air. That said, Brian, The Wrestler.
I mean, yeah, it's a 10.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Was there any doubt? Like, yeah.
No doubt. How about you, Mickey?
I mean, I was always afraid to give a movie a 10, but since he did it, I will also give it a 10.
Remember, this is your
yeah,
scale.
Yeah. I mean, again, a movie that had a huge effect on me the first time I watched it and kind of like, changed the way I looked at a lot of things. So yeah, it beautifully done 10.
How about you, Tyler?
Contrary to my letterbox, which I gave a 4-star, I think I'm also gonna give it a 10. I was scared. Okay, I didn't want to. I was like, I'm not sure how people feel about this movie. Like,
Me too, man. I feel you.
I didn't like Mother. Like Mother's.
Right,
dude.
Yeah. I mean, Aronofsky's not going to hit every
he's
time.
not every.
That's true.
He has not gotten them
Yeah.
all right.
I like the whale, but
Yeah,
I still
and
need
even
to watch that.
getting mixed reviews, So
right.
Yeah.
So not everybody appreciated that. Well,
Right.
there are some people that are like anti-fat suit that just hate it for that reason, which is fine. It's your right to hate it for whatever reason you want. Trying to think of the one movie I can always think of when I think of, well, it's Requiem. No, the one movie I hated from Aronofsky is Noah. That movie bored the living shit out of me. I was so bored. But you're like, oh, cool, Noah, it's gonna have all this and then he's just like, I'm gonna add more that's not in the Bible. Why not? Let's just do it. Rock monsters. Okay, rock monsters.
Oh wait, maybe I want to watch that.
No, but like I'm telling you, he made rock monsters boring, dude. I don't understand it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a weird movie and just not, I don't know, not my style. He does great with a lot of things, but I think he's way better in the real world. As soon as you start to get fantastical with him, I'm like, I'm good. The Fountain might be the exception. So I'm going to go ahead and also give this a 10. This is a solid S flick. I think it did win awards.
Wow,
I think
look at that.
this is definitely...
We should have a special list with all 10s.
There aren't many. I think like 3 movies.
We should have a special like sound or something. Like you should have like a
real
study certified approved.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a sound I could
your
use
own
for
fresh
this?
stickers?
Yeah.
No, all I have is the awesome sounds of Mickey, the voice guy. That's all I ever have.
Oh yeah.
We'll have Slash come in and guest star every time we get 10s all around.
Yeah.
That's the same thing we do every night, Biggie.
Sweet
Try
child
to take over the world.
Anyway, this has been an all sports episode, mostly talking about just sports. Apparently, we kind of sidetracked a lot of times just talking about our experience with sports. And this has been episode 16, season 2 of The Real Study. We will be back next week. We hope you guys had a great time and follow us everywhere. Night, guys.
Kick balls. I don't know. Something. Some
Who's your
joke.
daddy?
Who's
your
your
daddy?
Yeah.